Hi, I'm Jess Dewell, your host of The Voice of Bold Business. Thanks for being here on this Friday. We are talking today about customer service excuses. And I have to tell you, we all know it. We all know what an excuse is when we hear it. Sometimes when we make them, we try and rationalize them and we disguise it. We try and disguise it, even though these excuses show up. And there are a ton of reasons for excuses all around us all of the time. The thing is, when it comes to our customer service, the way that we act, excuses are the quickest way to lose credibility as a brand with our customers. That trust is a magic bond. When we don't have the credibility and the trust of our customers, our repeat business, our reputation, the willingness that people talk positive about our companies in the marketplace become at risk. Today, I am talking with Carmen Rojas, who brings 15 years of experience in digital marketing and advertising, and who leads a team of marketers that use analytics to develop the story of digital marketing customers for B2B and B2C companies across the East Coast. She has a lot to say about customer service and a lot to say about analytics. And I have a lot to say about customer service and the feeling and the management and the way that the business shows up that way. You'll hear us right after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
So I want to know, Carmen, what are the common excuses that businesses use when it comes to handling customer service, and how do we avoid them?
Well, I think one of the things that I hear a lot when we talk with our clients and prospective clients, and we start trying to figure out what's their value proposition, like what makes them different than other companies and why should that matter to the customer you're trying to reach. And one of the often things they'll say is, well, we have great customer service. And I'm like, that's not a differentiator, because every business should have great customer service. That's almost like a must. I mean, I think they need to start issuing that with your business license or something. If you have crappy customer service, you cannot have a business license. To me, it's like having at least exceptional customer service. That's the standard. That should be across the board. That's not a unique selling proposition that you have good customer service. So I think there's a mistake in thinking that good is okay. I think one of the things I saw that became kind of errant was this idea of particularly using Twitter to handle your customer service. I think for some companies it works great, but for others it really doesn't, because if you're a big company and you have a lot of legal stuff that goes on, and there's words you can't use, and there's phrasing that you and customers that you have to verify their age or anything like that, it just doesn't work well. And then what you end up with is giving these branded, "Thank you for your concern. We will contact you about your issue." And that's just, nobody likes that. That just defeats the whole purpose of it.
It's that phone hell that you get into where you have to press the buttons here and there to get to where you want to go. And I'm like, I don't know where I want to go, which is why I'm calling you. And you're asking me to press buttons. How do I get to where I want to go?
And it creates a negative customer service experience. Yeah. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do. One of the places I think is notorious for bad customer service is when you're calling your insurance company, particularly to get like a referral or something. And I hate doing that, but I had to do it for one of my kids. And I got on the phone and the lady was like genuinely interested. She was like, "Well, let me do this for you because you don't need to talk to this person. Let me just, And so she was figuring things out and helping me navigate through getting this referral and all that. And that was genuine and that felt good. And I posted about it. And that's what you want with your customer service, is people that are genuine and really try to help. But companies have to empower their employees to do that. You have to trust your customer service team to be able to say the right thing and not get you into hot water. But if you're scared and you end up muffling them so that all they can say is, please press 1, that's really boring. And you miss an opportunity to be exceptional.
There is, and I'm thinking about insurance still, because they're franchises, right? They have infrastructures that go across all the franchises if the franchise chooses to use them. And so here you are, you've got all of these insurance companies of the same brand that have the same customer service provided by the brand itself, whoever is offering these franchises. And the individual agents, the brokerages that we work with in our neighborhoods have no control over that infrastructure. And it's usually really, really hard to recreate, meaning expensive and not worth it because the teams are usually small in our insurance companies. So let's say, and we're going to just stick with this, real estate agents are similar. Any franchise would be this way when you call. I know, let's see, Midas is this way. What can a franchise owner do in those cases when they can't control the technology that they get to support their business, yet they're trying to have that personal experience, that personal touch, like what you just had?
You're right that they are kind of handcuffed a bit by what the overriding group controls and mandates, but I would be, find places to be awesome. Customer service doesn't have to be just on the phone. One of the places that we often find interesting customer service is when we go to hotels. My son is a competitive chess player, and so we end up spending quite a bit of time in hotels. You're calling the national number, whether it's Orbitz or Marriott or whatever, and so it's not the local hotel owner that books it. But when I get to the hotel, they'll notice things like, okay, well, you wanted this kind of a room. Is there anything, do you need anything else? So it's like, put your own personal touch on it when you can. People that are coming to you may not have had the warm and fuzzy feeling before they got to you, that they may have been put through a bit of an ordeal to get to the point where they're actually talking to a live person.
Right. Tons and tons of hoops. I've a new contact, and his name is David Harrington, and he owns an insurance business here in Boulder. And something that he said that he does is that he visits mortgage brokers every single month. And so he has done something to create a personal connection in a way that he has control. And he shows up and he has something to give them every single month. And they remember the fact that when they see him, they're getting a gift. Doesn't matter what that gift is. And that they're seeing his face. And so every time you see somebody's face, every time you're having a short conversation, what ends up happening is there's a connection there. So because we don't need insurance all the time, which makes it really hard. So how do you close the gap for when somebody reaches out or decides they need something, that you're the person that they call because they know you. They know you're going to be treated well. They are comfortable saying, I know David Harrington personally, and he's going to take great care of you. And that comes from what you were saying earlier of where can you be awesome? And it may not be using technology.
One thing that people would appreciate is when people are genuinely apologetic. And yeah, usually by the time we get to customer service, there's a problem or something that we're needing some help with. And so what I often will hear, we're sorry about your wait, how can I help you? No, you're not.
Right.
You're not, because you've been busy talking to other people. I'm the one that's had to sit here and listen to your boring hold music for the last 10, 15 minutes when I had other things to do. We've had situations where hotel booked us in the wrong room. We didn't get the double room we asked for. It ended up being a single. Be genuinely apologetic. We're sorry about that. How would you like a free cookie? No, that doesn't solve my problem.
Right. So, you were going to give me the cookie anyway.
Right. It's been sitting here for all day. I saw that when we checked in. Be genuinely apologetic about it. What's irritating to me sometimes is when customer service turns into a sales opportunity. They immediately flip over, and it's like, wait a minute, I was calling because I was mad. I don't want to buy anything.
Oh man, that upsell. Do upsells belong in customer service?
I don't think so. I think upsells belong in the follow-up after the customer service is delivered. So be great, you know what I mean? If going back to like the insurance situation. So once you've helped me resolve my issue and you send me that confirmation email, thank you so much. Would you like to take our survey? If you would like to look into our dental plans. here's where you could go to look. That's, I think, where that belongs. But if we haven't even got off the phone, and especially if the phone call ended and I'm not happy,
Right.
please don't try to upsell me. If I've told you where you can go stick it, I don't want to buy anything else from you. I mean, it just makes you seem even less genuine. You know what I mean? That you really weren't interested in me as a person and solving my problem. You're just looking at me as a possible sale.
That's probably goes back to people who are on the front line. They may have no choice except for to ask that question at the end. They may be
I'm sure.
expected to do that because of some other decision, some other place. There is a need, a big need to recognize that the best thing we can do for our frontline customer service employees, whomever they are, is to provide a whole bunch of scenarios and training and role playing and examples, and then trust that when they get to that experience, they will do the best with what they took away. And then that in itself becomes a learning experience to change, build upon, solidify for the next time. Because you're right, when you plan something down to the point of this is a script you say, and when they see this, then you say that, it's more frustrating for the customer than it is for the sales rep. And look at what I just said. I just said sales rep instead of customer service rep. And when that sales piece must be brought in, it muddies the water of the objective of the conversation.
There was an interesting case study, and I think it was about Southwest Airlines, and they started empowering those frontline people to actually solve problems, because those are the people that you go to. Hey, wait, I missed my flight. How can you help me? And when that frontline person says, gosh, I'm really sorry, let me take a look here. Okay, I see that there's another flight. Would you like for me to book that for you? That's what people want. They don't want to go, gosh, I'm going to have to talk to my manager to see if we can rebook you. Could I have your, that nobody likes that. And then when and then when the person comes back and says, yeah, but I was riding first class. Is there something you can do about that? And then they're like, gosh, I'm going to have to go check with my manager. Hold on just a minute. That just gets annoying and highly frustrating.
Right. Well, and it creates bottlenecks. So the customer service reps don't have the response times that they would like. Their hands are tied and they're unable to, you're right, have any sort of creativity to just know what needs to be done and offer some solutions in that situation that allow the person who's frustrated to be frustrated, and the person who is supposed to have some sort of a solution, the opportunity to offer said solution.
There's a really interesting case study that they did about that. And they spent, and that's one of the things, that's a whole nother show, is that companies don't like to train anymore.
We should totally talk about that, because when we talk about the things like we get told two things, right? We get told, this is the way you do it. Good luck. And the customer's always right, so they better not get mad. But the way we do it inherently is going to make these people over here mad. Now what do?
You put them in a no-win situation and then you expect to deliver good customer service. And that just never, that's a recipe for disaster, I think. But you'll find it at a lot of places. We did some consulting work for a very large company, and the lady that was handling customer complaints actually worked like in the factory. And it was like, wait, what? And it's like, but you don't have the authority to really solve these problems. You're just somebody who had capacity, so to speak, in your daily schedule to handle these things, but you don't have the authority to answer anybody's question.
Right. Okay, I'm going to write down that, because we should come back to that. We're talking about this place of we're not sure. Well, we know it's broken, and we know people are angry, and we know we have low retention, and we have a low response in terms of quality of service, and these people are getting their hands tied. And we were talking about training and this concept of the customer is always right. It's interesting because I don't think the customer is always right. And companies who expect their employees to say the customer is always right usually disempowers them.
Yes.
And that's hard because when you were disempowered and you know your hands are tied, then you only get to fall back on the script that you really haven't been trained on. And so what happens when there's an irate customer. There's nobody there to help because there's been no training on how do I not take this assault personally, because it's not at me, it's at something outside of me. I just happen to be the one that picked up the phone. And so I have to separate myself from their anger and recognize I still need to show up to help them. And how do I do that? Can I use conflict resolution? Well, frontline employees, customer service reps are also usually very early in their career. And so if they have that experience, it's still it's still in the need of being developed. There's a lack of experience and a lack of wisdom that comes with these different situations, right? So training and customers always being right. There is a difference between the customer always being right and the value of having happy customers. And somewhere along the line, Carmen, I think that got lost. What do you think about that?
The customer has to always feel like they're right, even if they're not. I think that's a little more important. You know what I mean? Like, I think great customer service to me is when I can complain about something, and even if I'm wrong, I leave the conversation feeling like I was affirmed and that you were heard. I was heard, and in some way I was validated. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
I don't have to be right, but I have to be validated. I've called and complained about things that I could very clearly see. Something I purchased, some contract I signed, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not, and they're like, but it clearly states. You're right, it does clearly state that, but can you understand why that's a problem for me? And people who get it are like, I do see where that's an issue, but here's what we can do to help you. Do that, but don't just shut me down and be like, you're wrong.
So they're
treating your contract, you're wrong.
So the customer is treated with respect.
Right. And I think that's the important thing. And I think the thing, again, getting into the larger conversation of how we treat our frontline employees, oftentimes, like you said, they're early in their career. They're probably not making a ton of money. So do they feel like they're really contributing, or are they just earning a paycheck? Are they just putting in hours? There's kind of this idea with companies, particularly big businesses, I don't need college graduates to answer phones. That's not the point. You don't need a college graduate, but you need somebody who cares, somebody who understands the process, somebody who gets it, and somebody you can trust. That doesn't necessarily have to be a college graduate, but it should be someone who gives a darn. And when you find that person, you treat them right, incentivize them to do the right thing. There was a great book. I like this guy named Patrick Lencioni, and he writes all these business fables. And one of them, he talks about the idea of, with your team, figuring out the thing that they do every day that makes a difference in the group's ability to achieve their goals. So even if you're a waitress, you know what I mean? Your ability to turn over tables quickly helps. So then you quantify that. How many tables can I turn over in my shift?
Right.
And you start tracking that number, and you incentivize them to get better at that thing. You watch that number. So if it's customer service, how many people can I actually help? Figure out what it is, put a number to it.
The balances and having metrics. I love that you brought in metrics, my metric friend.
I was going to do that.
I did, and I was waiting. I didn't want to ask. I knew it would show up. And that's the point, because when somebody, let's stick with the service staff at a restaurant, somebody can go quickly in that capacity. Not everybody can. And that comes with a different personality and a different style. So using the spectrum gets us this qualitative range. It's not like you either made it or you didn't in football. You got the touchdown or you didn't. Whatever the case may be, here's this range that we know we're doing well, because there's the base set of skills, and then there are the people who really excel. And when they're working together in an effective way, everybody benefits. Everybody's moving people through the tables goes quicker. Everybody can do that and learn from each other. And I like that idea a lot.
And and it makes 100% sense. Even using the football analogy, which I'm also known to do, everybody on the team has a role. If your linemen are not doing their job, the quarterback gets sacked, and then you can't win the game, you can't score touchdowns. So how many times can your nose tackle hold their opponent off? That's what you quantify, because if he can do that more times, more often, the quarterback is safer, you score more touchdowns, and it just kind of rolls downstream. Finding that thing, and I think in customer service in particular, to bring it back to that, figuring out what that is. So if after they've talked to you, do they go back into the website and do something meaningful? If we send that follow-up email and they actually signed up for our newsletter or something else, that's the thing that you want your customer service people to be measuring. How many people after receiving my call are signing up for our newsletter or are coming back to the site, and yes, you can track and tag that.
And I think that's important to talk about. When we don't have the right technology, but we think we can track it, that creates a whole different level of problems higher up in the organization that puts, and I'm going to say a squeeze, because there's pressure. There's an increased pressure of something where there's the gap that you're just talking about. Yes, you can measure it. Are you measuring it with the tool that actually makes sense for the business flow of the team that you've got and
Right.
of the way that the customer service team is set up? Some people might be trying to use Trello to manage the amount of types of calls that they have. Wrong tool. They need they need something that can actually track tickets and follow up on tickets, right? And so and this actually comes back to the customer's not always right, especially when we're talking about technology. Everybody's decided they're going to use this tool, and we've got to do something new in our business. So what do the business decision makers decide to do? Say they put this mandate out there, figure out how to do it within this tool. Well, can't do it within the tool. We've got a problem because it's not going to be done well. There's going to be miscommunication along the way. And if you're calling up the company whose technology it is saying, we're trying to do it this way, and you're trying to track tickets in a to-do list software, if Trello says, okay, this is how you do it, bad Trello. And by the way, they don't do this, and I should not have name dropped that way, but it's easy to think about this. So a to-do list tool, right? It's up to the to-do list tool to say, oh man, that's not what our tool does, and it's not going to do that because we're doing what we do so well. So here's what I know you could do to support that. And by the way, these are the types of technologies that you will have to consider next.
What I think is important is that we not get stupid about our technology. I've been in places where they'll say, well, nobody emailed me back, or I never saw the follow-up. So did you think the situation was resolved? Because you didn't?
Right.
Do you not pay attention to the fact that situation just stopped? You never got the resolution. Nothing ever happened. And so you just stopped. One of the companies I worked for, we were working with trying to streamline some of their customer service. And so we were following the path of the software. So who gets this? And then what does that person do? And then who moves it along to this next step? Yes. And okay, but if that doesn't happen, or they have to know that this was done in order to do that. So who's watching it? And they ended up being in like this weird loop of stuff with all of these holes where customers were just falling through. Get the right software, but be human about it. Go through the process yourself and make sure that it actually makes sense and makes life easier and not harder.
Exactly. And if we're trying to fill somebody's plate, we were talking about capacity earlier, so this is a perfect segue back. When somebody whose job it is to be doing this one thing, and for whatever reason, somebody's on vacation, or there just happens to be this growth spurt, or they're just not busy and there's space for them to fill other places, that's actually the quickest, easiest way to lose communication and let the ball drop and lose that customer service breaks down. Not because people don't care, but because their focus is on the responsibilities that they were hired for, not the ones they're substituting for or taking on because they have a little bit of capacity. This actually happens a lot sometimes in technology companies. Engineers do customer service. Do engineers seem by default ready to handle customer service?
I've talked to some at Google. It's not a good experience.
There is a way that they
think
and approach. And when you're talking to somebody who's frustrated, no thinking and logic will work.
No.
Right? And so it's kind of like, you're doing what? And I'm like, do they like doing that? No, they hate doing that. I'm like, good to know. Are they going to continue to do that? Oh yeah, because that's just how we have the work divvied up. And I'm like, okay, so our conversation is different. How do we help the engineers provide the best service possible within the way that their brains think Is the customer service frustrated customers, or is the customer service around installation, right? Then we can look at the types of customer service that we have, the problems that people are calling in with. And yes, engineers totally send customer service requests about installation and setup, and I'm trying to do this integration over here and it's not working quite right. Sounds great for an engineer, right? But if I'm frustrated and concerned about billing and I don't understand what's going on, the scope of knowledge that the engineer brings lacks.
I don't like the idea of person has excess capacity, so let's make them do customer service. Like, to me, that's just kind of flawed thinking. Yeah, that's flawed thinking from the beginning. There was a really interesting article in the Harvard Business Review about companies that multitask themselves to death. And that's one of the things that they talk about. I'm paying this person whatever thousands of dollars a year. I want to make sure that in their 8-hour day, they are working for 8 hours and they get an hour-long break, but that's it. But that's highly inefficient, and people end up being burnt out, overworked, overstressed, and that's not the one you want dealing customer service.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so let's talk about walking the walk, because we've been talking around this the whole program. We've been talking around this concept of walking the walk. You said it just now. When customer service is an afterthought, it breaks down. I was talking about it earlier. The people with extra capacity doing customer service makes it an afterthought. The fact that we need to have what are too many metrics or too few metrics to make it manageable and useful within an organization to grow and evolve without having breakdowns and burnt out people like you were just talking about. And it comes down to the walk we walk. Actually, what walk are we walking? Who cares what's coming out of our mouths? If we say, give the best customer service, do whatever they want, the customer's always right, and you have 3 minutes to take care of their problem, we've got a big problem. The walk it's on the metric. The walk is not on the customer. And that's where we might inadvertently be saying things that we don't mean. We might inadvertently be putting into place these pressures that we don't even know that are going on. So we must rethink our thinking around how customer service works, because we're rationalizing all this stuff away. We need them to upsell because we want more customers. And it makes a lot of sense. We need to make sure that we've got these metrics in place. We need to understand we don't care about their motivation or the level of career that they're at or the level of experience they have. We expect them to do this and this and this. All of these expectations have not necessarily good results. Look at some things that you think you're doing right with your kids, people, and they turn around and they're like, where did that come from? And you sit and you stop and you think back and you go, shoot, I reacted that way, which means they changed what they're doing, which is now not the desired outcome. And we have to remember we're doing that with our teams too. Everything we say, everything that we do, everything that they're watching us in our actions, if it doesn't agree with what we say, we're losing credibility. And they're going to do what we do, and they're not going to do what we say.
Yes.
I mean, look at us. Do we do what other people say when they don't do it themselves? No.
Well, and it rings hollow. It gets called out again. Say you've got great customer service and that you care about me, but yet you screwed me. That's not in synergy with your brand, if that's what you're saying. And not to speak ill of HR people, but we have to hire people. If customer service is going to be your thing, hire people who are good at customer service and give them that job, and then get out of the way and let them do their job. We talked about the training and all of that, but after you've done it and you've sufficiently trained them, get out of the way and let them do their job. Customer service, like you said, it's not the same as marketing. It's not engineering. It's not sales. It's not operations. It's its own thing. And you need to find, just like you would find the best mechanist to run whatever machine, if that's what you need to do, find the right customer service people and spend the time to find those people who actually enjoy solving problems. And that's not always someone who just has an extra 10 minutes here and there.
Which makes sense. And I love everything you're saying. And I would add to that. So we all have customer service right now. We might need to take a step back and go, what do we expect our customer service to do in our organization? And then go, is that actually occurring? And then go, for the pieces that are not, let's figure out why. What's the reason behind this not working that's detracting from? Because what I hear you saying, Carmen, is that customer service is like the piece that weaves everything together. And when we've got this weaving, and this is the impression that people get when they interface with our company. It doesn't matter if it's online or on the phone or in the street. Everybody has this element of, we've got to have customer service hats on all the time. Yes, we do, because we've got to listen. We have to know what's going on. We have to be able to bring it back to our organization and communicate. Yet, when the rubber hits the road, it's how well do these people feel when they're done talking with us? If there's a problem and the same problem keeps occurring, people keep calling and thinking that their to-do list software can actually manage customer service requests from beginning to end. Well, that's a whole different thing. So customer service is actually also kind of like this feedback loop back into the business when we choose to listen. And so we can use it not only to dig into what are the problems, how do we get customer service to be the way we want it to be in line with our mission. We can also then use it as a communication cycle, a loop, this feedback loop, this early warning system of here's what's coming back. So we've got to go talk to the salespeople because they're saying this, or let's go back to our content marketing because we have a mixed message out there somewhere. Or
Exactly.
Are we trying to break into a new market and we're really doing a poor job and we got to figure out how to talk to those people better? There's so many other things that come back that customer service can add to. It's almost like they're the fertilizer in the soil that makes the flowers grow.
It shines a light on where you're weak. It really does. And if you pay attention to it, you'll find out. If I'm getting a lot of customer service complaints about my widget, then your widget's messed up. You need to go back to the engineer and find out what's going on with the widget. If you put out a message and nobody seems to be understanding the message, then your message wasn't clear. It seems kind of elementary, but a lot of companies miss that. If your wait time, if every time I call, and we're experiencing higher than expected call volumes, well, guess what? You need to raise your expectations of your call volumes. If that is happening all the time,
Yes.
then you need to change your expectation of your call volume and adjust accordingly.
Cheers to that. That's so true. That's so true. Oh man, we could go on, and we don't have any solutions. What we do have, though, are the indications that there's a problem, and recognizing, is the problem what we think it is? Or is it something else that this thing that's popping up is actually indicative of something a little deeper, and that we have to take a step back and we have to look and we have to pull back those curtains and question and watch, taking the time, because anything that comes to customer service, whether it's for training, whether it's for development of our people, it really comes down to the time. We must take the time to figure it out. And sometimes it can be fast. Most of the time it's not instantaneous, maybe not even quick.
You can go into community group and you might find there's been a whole bunch of people that have an issue and the problem's already been solved. I actually kind of like the idea, and it makes me kind of feel better that I'm talking to other people who've had the same problem that I did, not the one that created it who can't see it from my point of view.
It's the perfect place to bring together a cross-functional team, a salesperson, an engineer, a project manager, a customer service rep, an executive.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's going to be looking at that community with a different hat on, with a different level of expertise and a different purpose for being there. All of it's to help and support. Sometimes it's just to watch, but all of it's to help and support, to bring back things to the organization, to evolve, to get better, to iterate.
Oh yeah, and I think it also helps hold the businesses accountable, because it's like if you're in a community group, like we talked about hotels, and in the community, like, oh yeah, I never stay there at that chain, then you don't go there, and it puts pressure back on the company to do something about that. You kind of get the Yelps and those types of sites in there too. Those community-based things are really helpful, and sometimes talking about themes before, you'll find out, oh yeah, that plugin never works with this theme. Try this other plugin, and then, oh, okay, but you wouldn't get that from the original writer of that theme. Depending on the service that's being provided, I think those community-based customer service, can we call it that?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's call it that.
I like it. Community-based customer service, good move for the right business.
Thanks for listening. Carmen and I did a lot of talking today. I mean, we're talking about the muddying the waters between customer service and other roles. We're talking about where the priority of customer service is in an organization. We're also talking about the responsibility of what does customer service actually mean for us as an organization. You can find all the program notes for today's show at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P91. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 91. You can also search Stop the Customer Service Excuses. Subscribe and rate our program. We love to know what you're thinking. We love to know what you've got going on in your world when it comes to business, being bold, making decisions. And it's through our questions, through our seeking knowledge, that our experiences and our beliefs come to fruition, and it tells us and informs us how to be the best leader we can be today. Problem solving comes from thinking, and thinking about what business initiatives are allow us on how we want to receive feedback. We want to close the loop. We want to support our customers. What our role is to get there and pave the way for ourselves and others to make it happen. Let's lead. Please make sure that you tell us, how do you stop the customer service excuses?
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.